No one was supposed to still be inside the zoo at that hour. The announcement had been clear, repeated twice over the loudspeakers, calm but firm. A security issue. All visitors must exit immediately. Staff would guide everyone out. The gates would close. Procedures would be followed. Most people obeyed. They moved quickly, some annoyed, some curious, phones already raised, looking for something to film. Parents pulled children by the hand. Couples whispered theories. A few laughed nervously. It felt unreal, like an interruption to entertainment rather than a warning. The old man did not move. He remained seated on the bench near the lion enclosure, hands resting on his cane, back slightly curved, eyes fixed on the space beyond the glass. Around him, the zoo emptied in a steady flow. A guard approached and spoke to him gently, repeating the instruction. The old man looked up, slow, distracted, as if the words took time to reach him. "I'm not leaving," he said. The guard smiled, assuming confusion. He tried again, louder this time, explaining there had been an escape. A lioness had breached the inner gate. Protocol demanded full evacuation. This was not optional. The old man shook his head. "I'll stay," he repeated, calm, almost polite. The guard's smile faded. He glanced over his shoulder, uneasy. Radios crackled with overlapping voices. Somewhere deeper in the zoo, an alarm began to pulse, low and steady, the kind designed not to panic but impossible to ignore. Another guard joined them, then another. They tried different approaches, authority, reassurance, urgency. None of it worked. The old man did not argue. He did not raise his voice. He simply stayed where he was. Beyond the glass, the enclosure looked empty at first glance. Rocks, dry ground, a fallen log, no movement. But then from the corner of the space something shifted. A tawny shape emerged from behind the artificial rock wall, muscles rolling beneath skin, tail swaying in slow, deliberate arcs. The lioness. She was out. Not charging, not running. Walking with the confidence of an animal that knows there is nothing left to stop it. Her ears were upright, her head high, eyes scanning the unfamiliar openness beyond the enclosure barrier. The glass between her and the bench reflected nothing back at her now. The usual separation felt thinner, less real. The guards froze. One reached for his radio, voice suddenly tight. "She's here," he said. "She's close." The old man leaned forward slightly. The guards tried once more. One placed a hand on the back of the bench close to the old man's shoulder, ready to lift him if necessary. "Sir," he said, unable to keep the strain out of his voice, "we have to go, right now." The old man looked at him, eyes clear in a way that surprised everyone. "No," he said. "If she's free, I won't scare her." The words landed wrong, illogical, dangerous. The lioness stopped. She stood only a few meters from the bench now, separated by nothing but open space and the brittle confidence of human control. Her head turned slowly, nostrils flaring, as she caught the scent of people who should not be there anymore. Her gaze passed over the guards first, rigid bodies, elevated heartbeats, weapons concealed beneath uniforms. Then her eyes settled on the old man. He did not stand. He did not shout. He did not move at all. His breathing remained slow, measured. His hands stayed on the cane. His shoulders relaxed, as if he had decided that panic was a luxury he could no longer afford. The lioness took a step closer. The guards backed away instinctively, hands half raised, unsure whether to intervene or retreat. One of them whispered, "We need to pull him out. Now." The old man did not hear him, or perhaps he did, and chose not to listen. He lifted his head slightly and spoke, not loudly, not sharply, but with a softness that did not belong in an emergency. "It's all right," he said. No one knew who he was speaking to. The lioness paused again, her tail slowing, her ears flicking once. She lowered her head just a fraction, eyes never leaving the man on the bench. The distance between them felt impossibly small now, close enough that a single decision, by her or by any human in sight, could end everything. The zoo, moments ago filled with noise and movement, had gone completely silent. And in that silence, the guards realized something terrifying. The lioness was not behaving like an animal on the run. She was behaving like an animal that recognized something. The guards didn't like the way the lioness was looking at him. Predators look through people when they're hunting. They don't hesitate, they don't soften. This lioness had stopped as if something in her had caught on a memory and refused to move. One guard whispered into his radio, voice barely controlled, asking for the tranquilizer team. Another reached slowly toward the emergency gate controls, eyes darting between the animal and the old man. Their training was screaming at them to end the situation fast, but fast could turn lethal. The old man was the problem they couldn't solve. They could manage an animal, they could manage crowds, they could manage procedures. They could not manage a human being who refused to obey reality. The lioness took another step. Her paws made almost no sound on the packed dirt. Close enough now that the guards could see the twitch in her whiskers, the faint scars along her shoulder, the dry crust of old mud near her hind leg. She stopped again, head angled toward the man, as if listening. The old man's lips parted. He didn't smile exactly. His face was too tired for that, but something eased in his expression, like relief. "You're late," he murmured. The words hit the guards like a slap. Late? Late for what? One of them leaned in, urgency turning into irritation. "Sir, listen to me," he hissed. "We're getting you out, okay? Don't move. Don't talk." The old man didn't even look at him. His gaze stayed locked on the lioness with a focus that didn't match his fragile body. He lifted his hand a few centimeters off his cane, palm open, not reaching, just showing. The lioness lowered her head further, her ears tilted outward, not pinned back in aggression, but not relaxed either. Her tail slowed. She took a half step, then stopped so abruptly it looked like she'd hit an invisible wall. The air felt charged, the kind of moment where a heartbeat sounds too loud. The guard closest to the old man shifted his weight, preparing to grab him. His fingers tightened around the man's upper arm, and the lioness reacted instantly. Not with a roar, but with a sudden, sharp exhale and a flash of teeth. It was a warning delivered with precision. The guard's hand froze mid-grip. He released the old man immediately, stepping back without being told. The lioness didn't advance. She simply held her ground, eyes fixed on the guard, as if making a single rule clear. Do not touch him. The old man's hand trembled in the air. He lowered it slowly, the way you lower your voice in a place where shouting could kill. "That's it," he whispered. "Easy." A distant alarm continued to pulse. Somewhere, a door slammed. Radios crackled with overlapping instructions. But around the bench, the world had narrowed to two beings and the thin thread between them. The tranquilizer team appeared at the far end of the path, moving low behind a barrier cart, rifles angled but not raised. They stopped as soon as they saw how close the lioness was to the old man. A veterinarian whispered something to the lead shooter, and the shooter shook his head. No safe angle, not with the old man sitting right there. A dart could miss, it could hit wrong, it could trigger the lioness into panic. Panic would be the end. The old man's breathing remained slow, too slow for someone who should be terrified. He looked for the first time like the man he might have been decades ago, steady, stubborn, unafraid of what other people feared. The lioness took one more step and stopped directly in front of him, so close that her shadow fell across his shoes. Her head dipped and she sniffed the air around his knees, his hands, his cane. The old man did not flinch. His eyes shone with something complicated, recognition, grief, or simply the ache of being needed for one last moment. Then the lioness did something that made every guard's stomach drop. She turned her head slightly and looked past the bench toward the service corridor leading behind the enclosure. Her body tensed again. Her ears snapped forward. Her nostrils flared. It was the posture of an animal that had noticed something wrong. The old man followed her gaze, slow and careful, like he already knew what she was seeing. "No," he whispered, the word thin but firm. "Not again." One of the guards tried to understand what was happening. "What do you mean, not again?" he demanded, unable to keep his voice down. The old man finally glanced at him. His eyes were wet, not confused, not lost, wet with the kind of memory that never leaves, even when everything else does. "She won't leave it," he said. "She never does." The veterinarian took a step forward, cautious. "Sir, do you know this animal?" The old man swallowed, throat working as if the answer hurt to push out. "I know her," he said, "and she knows me." The lioness moved away from the bench without suddenness, walking toward the service corridor with a strange urgency. The guards instinctively stepped aside, giving her space. She wasn't fleeing. She wasn't roaming. She was going somewhere specific. The old man gripped his cane and pushed himself up with effort. His knees shook, his body protested, but he stood anyway. "Sir, no," the guard snapped, moving to stop him. The lioness halted mid-step and turned back, eyes hard, warning again. The old man raised one trembling finger, not at the guards, but toward the corridor. His voice cracked. "There's a cub," he said, "and if she's out, it means something happened." The words landed like ice. A lioness loose in a zoo wasn't just a danger, it was a sign of panic. And panic, in a mother, only comes from one place. The guards exchanged looks that carried equal parts disbelief and dread. A cub. The word reframed everything at once. Protocols shifted. Priorities collapsed into a single, dangerous truth. A lioness does not abandon safety unless something has already gone terribly wrong. The veterinarian stepped forward, careful, voice low. "Sir," she said, "if there's a cub, we need to secure the area. You can't follow her." The old man shook his head slowly. His knuckles were white around the cane. "She won't let anyone else near it," he replied. "Not scared, not angry, not even hungry. Only me." The lioness waited at the mouth of the service corridor, body taut, tail flicking in sharp, controlled movements. Every few seconds she glanced back at the old man, then forward again, as if counting time. As if time was running out. A guard muttered, "This is insane." Another whispered, "We're going to lose her if we don't act." Radios crackled with new orders, containment teams repositioning, aerial drones preparing to lift. The tranquilizer shooter adjusted his stance and then stopped, frozen by the line of sight. Lioness, corridor, old man directly behind her. There was still no safe shot. The old man took a step forward. His balance wavered. A guard moved to support him and stopped when the lioness's head snapped around. No roar this time, no teeth. Just a stare so sharp it cut the air. The guard backed off, hands raised. The old man breathed out slowly and continued, one careful step at a time. His shoes scuffed softly on the path. The lioness moved ahead of him, leading without looking back now, confident he would follow. The corridor swallowed them into shadow, leaving the guards standing in open space with a decision they could not undo. Inside, the corridor smelled different. Metal, disinfectant, old water. The sounds of the zoo fell away, replaced by a low, constant hum from the infrastructure beneath the enclosures. The lioness's pace quickened, her breath grew louder. She turned once more, eyes locking on the old man, then surged forward into the restricted access area. The guards followed at a distance, slow, silent, weapons lowered but ready. Every step felt like trespass. They were not supposed to be here, not like this. They reached the secondary holding space behind the enclosure, a place visitors never saw. Concrete walls, steel gates, a narrow pen used for medical checks and transfers. The lioness stopped abruptly and let out a sound that was nothing like a roar. It was broken, raw. She pressed her body against the gate and then backed away, frantic. The old man approached as fast as his body allowed. Inside the pen, barely visible at first, lay a small shape against the concrete. A cub, too still. One hind leg twisted at an unnatural angle. Blood darkened the fur along its side where it had scraped against something sharp. The cub's chest moved, but weakly, unevenly. The lioness paced in tight circles, every instinct screaming to reach it, to move it, to hide it. She lunged once at the gate, rattling metal, then turned back toward the old man with a sound that was almost a plea. The veterinarian pushed forward, forgetting caution. "We can help it," she said, "but we need to sedate the mother." The old man raised his hand, stopping her. "She won't survive that," he said quietly. "Neither will the cub." He stepped closer to the gate, ignoring the way his knees shook. He lowered himself slowly to the concrete, wincing as his joints protested. The lioness pressed her face against the bars, breathing hard, eyes wild. The old man reached through the bars just enough to rest his fingers on the cub's fur. The guards sucked in their breath. The lioness froze, every muscle in her body locked, ready to tear the world apart. The old man did not rush. He did not pull. He simply rested his hand there, letting the cub feel warmth, letting the lioness see that nothing was being taken. "It's okay," he whispered. "I remember." The words seemed to cut through her panic. The lioness lowered her head slowly, inch by inch, until her forehead rested against the gate. Her breathing slowed. The tight circles stopped. The veterinarian stared at the old man, realization dawning. "You've been here before," she said softly. He nodded, eyes never leaving the cub. "A long time ago," he replied, "when she was smaller than this." The guards understood now. This wasn't coincidence, it wasn't madness, it was history. And somewhere between steel bars and concrete floors, a bond that should have ended decades ago was being tested one last time. The cub whimpered faintly, the old man's hand trembled, and the lioness lifted her head, eyes burning with urgency, as if asking the only question that mattered. Would he help again? The old man closed his eyes for a brief moment, as if steadying something inside himself before it slipped away. When he opened them again, his voice was calm, but it carried a weight that silenced everyone around him. "Yes," he said, "I'll help." The veterinarian hesitated. Every rule she knew told her this was wrong. Liability, safety, distance. But rules don't account for moments like this, moments when an animal has already decided who it will trust and no one else qualifies. She nodded once and gestured for the team to stand back. The old man shifted closer to the gate, ignoring the pain in his knees. He studied the cub the way only someone deeply familiar with fragile life could. His fingers moved gently along the small body, careful around the twisted leg, checking breathing, warmth, reflex. The cub let out another weak sound and tried to move toward his hand. The lioness tensed, then stopped herself. She watched every motion, her body rigid with restraint. Trusting did not come easily to her. It never had. But something in the man's presence anchored her, held her in place. "He's alive," the old man said softly. "But he's trapped. The leg, it's pinned." A guard unlocked the secondary gate just enough to widen the opening by a few centimeters. The metal groaned. The lioness surged forward instinctively, then froze again at the sound of the old man's voice. "Easy," he murmured. "I won't take him." He slid his arm through the opening farther this time, bracing himself against the bars. Slowly, carefully, he guided the cub free from the angle it was stuck in, shifting its weight so the pressure eased. The cub cried out once, louder now, then quieted as the pain lessened. The lioness exhaled sharply, a sound halfway between relief and fear. The veterinarian moved in, quick but controlled. With the old man's hand still resting on the cub, she splinted the injured leg as gently as possible. No sedatives, no restraints, just precision and speed. The cub squirmed, then stilled, exhaustion overtaking it. When it was done, the old man withdrew his arm slowly. He leaned back against the wall, breathing hard, sweat beading at his temple despite the cool air. The lioness rushed forward, scooping the cub close with her body, her tongue moving rapidly, frantic and loving all at once. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the lioness lifted her head and looked at the old man. Really looked at him. Her gaze softened in a way that felt impossible for such a powerful animal. She stepped closer to the gate and pressed her forehead against the bars where his hand had been moments before. The old man raised his hand, stopping just short of contact. "That's enough," he whispered. "You've got him now." The zoo was secured within the hour. The lioness and her cub were guided safely back into a reinforced enclosure, monitored closely, undisturbed. The public would later hear only fragments of the story. An escape, a delay, a controlled situation. They would never hear about the bench or the refusal, or the way a lioness chose a single human out of dozens and would not be moved. The old man was taken to the medical unit shortly after. His body was tired. Too tired. The adrenaline that had held him upright drained away, leaving him fragile once more. As they helped him onto a bed, the veterinarian asked the question everyone had been carrying. "How did you know her?" He smiled faintly, eyes distant now. "I raised her," he said. "After her mother rejected her. Bottle-fed. Nights on a concrete floor so she wouldn't be alone. I promised her once that if she ever needed me, I'd come." Later that evening, as the zoo settled back into uneasy normalcy, the lioness was seen lying beside her cub, calm at last. She did not pace. She did not roar. She simply watched the shadows move. And far from the enclosure, in a quiet room, an old man slept with a peace no one had seen in him for years. For those who witnessed it, the day never quite fit into words. It wasn't just an escape. It wasn't just an accident. It was a reminder. Some bonds don't fade with time, cages, or age. Some promises once made wait patiently, until the exact moment they are needed again. And when that moment comes, even the wild remembers.